Okay, so the first one, it's very, very straightforward. It goes 1 and 2 and on the snare, and then 3 and 4 and on the floor tom. The hand pattern is just right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and So let's have a listen to that with the shuffle before it. 2 and here we go. Just remember, guys, don't overuse your fills. It doesn't matter how much you enjoy playing them. If you play them too much, people are going to start to get a little bit annoyed. Fills are a special occasion. They're to be used just then, not all the time. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. So remember, keep the fills spare and they'll sound good. The next exercise changes two things. The first thing it changes, we're going to move from the hi-hats over to the ride cymbal. It's something that you should be able to do pretty easily. But if you can't, just practice it. It comes naturally with practice. Everything is easy when you practice it enough. Okay, so we're doing the exact same pattern that we did in the hi-hats, but now we're doing it on the ride. Remember, when you're playing the ride cymbal, you have to play responsibly. You don't want to play out on the edge where it starts to make too much noise. It's called wash, when it starts to build in volume as you play it. It shows that you don't have the right control of your stick. If you hit with the shaft of your stick on the edge of the cymbal, it's going to start to build in volume, and it's going to start to get out of control. When playing the ride cymbal, try and use the tip of your stick on the body of the cymbal, not on the edge, and you'll get a nice ping sound. It'll be nice and controlled. The only time you want to hit out on the edge is when you choose to. Those kind of accents and volume should be intentional. It shouldn't be like, oh no, my ride cymbal is getting louder, what do I do? It's kind of like getting into a car for the first time and driving down a motorway. If you don't know how to do it, you're going to cause a crash. So if you are playing the ride cymbal irresponsibly, it's just going to start washing out. It's another way that people can see this guy doesn't really have that much comfort when it comes to playing the drums. So you want to make sure that you're playing with control on the ride. Exact same pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Switch to the hi-hats. 1, 2, 3. Back to ride. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi-hats. So for different times of the song, when you want to get a different feel, you can move over to the right. The second change that I spoke about is actually on the fill. The sticking is exactly the same as the fill you just learned, but now we've got accents built into it. So an accent is an audible difference. It's a volume increase on certain hits. And we've got an accent on 1 and a on the snare drum. 1 and a. Accents are very important for play because if all of your notes are the same volume, you sound like an uncomfortable wooden player that just can't have feel in their play. You want to make sure that when you're playing that you've got a bit of feel to it. So accents really help with that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 and 4 and 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 and 4 and stick on a metronome, practice that. Stick on a couple of shuffle songs, practice them to music, get really comfortable with them. Because whenever you're performing in front of anyone, whether it's friends and family or whether it's a crowd of strangers, you're always going to be a little bit more nervous than you are when you practice at home. You have to remember, practicing at home, it's a perfect scenario for you. You're at your most relaxed, you're playing on your drum kit at home where you play it the most. You're playing on your drum kit at home where you play it the most. The important thing is that when you get out there, you're outside of your comfort zone, you're going to be more likely to make mistakes. Those little bits that you're a little bit uncomfortable with, you're guaranteed to mess up. So you want to make sure that you're very comfortable with what you're playing, because when you put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, you want to make sure that you can almost autopilot your way through it. You don't have to worry about those little mistakes. The next exercise, we're going to play on different surfaces. Okay, so we're not just going to move from snare to floor. We're going to move the right hand from the snare to the rack to the floor. 1 and 2 and and the same for 3 and a 4 and a 3 and a 4 and left hand doesn't move, right hand just moves in a triangle. So if you remember that, snare, rack, floor, snare, rack, floor. 1 and 2, 3 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3. You take note of your music there. We have an accent on the snare on 1 and we have an accent on the snare on 3. So it pops on 1 and 3. 1, 3. Remember what I told you about accents giving feel? This is without feel. This time. It's technically right, but it sounds wooden. So it makes a difference. If you pay attention to your accents, you're going to sound an awful lot more comfortable in your play. Our final, I call it our final because the last one's super easy. Our final exercise plays a triplet on the 1 and 2 is just a solid crotchet. A triplet on the 3 and 4 is just a solid crotchet. So you get 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4. That space is sometimes difficult for people. They're very comfortable with playing constantly, but you ask them to leave space and they start to panic. So it's important that we practice that as well. This is also difficult because for right-handed drummers, you're asked to play an accent on your left. And for left-handed drummers, you're asked to play an accent on your right. So your weak hand has to finish this. Finishing on the weak, finishing on the weak. So it's not natural. You want to finish on the right. This makes it a little bit more difficult. And the only way to get comfortable with it is by practicing it, doing it over and over again, and making it something that you're not uncomfortable with. So let's try that with the fill. I'm letting you away with a lot on the last one because the fill is a bass drum and a crash on 1, a rest on 2, a rest on 3, and a rest on 4. The reason we're doing this is because this is likely how you're going to stop. And if you don't practice it, you might mess it up. Even though it seems very, very simple when you look at it, you have to practice something to get comfortable with it. So let's spend some time on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. As you practice these, take your time with them. Try and cycle down through them. Don't do the whole page from top to bottom. Do the first line 4 times, the second line 4 times. Continue on until the very end. Get comfortable with all variations of this. You need to practice this until it becomes natural in your play. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to play it live. You're going to have trouble playing it naturally, and quite honestly, it's more likely you're going to make mistakes. The shuffle beat is very, very common, and there's not a whole lot of information out there for it. So hopefully you found all this information useful. The shuffle is quite common, so you might find yourself playing this. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask me. I'd love to help you out with moving forward with any of this information. If you have a camera, I'd like you to video yourself doing this so I can see how you're getting on. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I'll talk to you then.